We do indeed find ourselves at the crossroads. 2 weeks to go in the split. We're almost made it to playoffs. Tied for fourth. What a world we're living in.
Three-way tie for fourth, Cole. Us and the rest of the guys. Right there in it.
Welcome to 100 Talk, everybody. I'm Cole. That's Jordan. We talk about 100 Thieves, League of Legends. We do it all right. So we're glad you've joined us.
For this all right production.
For this, certified okay podcast. Look, it's another weird one. We made the joke last week about we could just copy and paste the previous podcast intros and use them again. It's probably the same thing this week. Only somehow it was a 2-0 week instead of a 1-1 week.
I'll tell you what, Cole. 2-0 does feel better, confirmed, than a 1-1 week. Just putting it out there.
It does, but I'm not sure it's materially different in the way we play. But on the scoreboard, it's sure materially different. So here we are, sitting at 500.
This is probably what it feels like to be on like an average team, right? To have your team. We are exactly 500. We will argue whether or not we're actually average.
That's what I'm saying. We're gonna do that.
We'll get into it. But I think that if that doesn't define average, some games you do better than others. Some games you just completely blow. Like, we're kind of used to this team being either really good or really bad. And
sure.
And I'm wondering a little bit if what we have now is this team being about average, middle of the table, right?
That and all of your other 100 Thieves questions answered today on this beautiful 100 Talk podcast.
Clear your calendars.
Clear your right now calendars because that's what we're doing tonight.
Right now.
Yeah, so the title tonight is going to be, I think, the common thread that's running through our discussion tonight, which is decent or just lucky. And that will kind of be the framework that we work through everything in.
It's our new show. It's like this or that.
Yeah, decent or just lucky. It's what we do every week when we talk about ourselves. But hey, we see Team Liquid going down again. They're on the outside looking in. Golden Guardians, who would be in the competition with us for that last playoff spot, and going down another game. So it's not unreasonable to say that we might make playoffs. We've got a tough schedule. We'll talk about that coming up. But Jordan, shall we proceed to dive into the games that transpired over the weekend?
Shall we dig into the first game, Cole?
Well, let me lead off that dig discussion by taking a dig at our friends' league leaders. Guess what, buddy? Who won the games this past weekend? Does anybody know?
War.
Can you tell me? Guess what we did? 100 Thieves. The Civilist War is ours for this week. They beat us last time. All right, so
they beat us last time, but
split
this time feels much more consequential. I'm happier to have this second leg of the Civilist War on our side because they're sitting in a bad spot, Cole.
Yeah, they are.
Great for dig. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think here's the thing. We did something special for our loyal following, and we set up a best of 3 series with 100 Talkers against the league leaders guys, who most of you will know are friends who they're the Us for Dignitas, right? A fan run podcast that focuses on their LCS team as well as the other Dignitas esports, but primarily the LCS team. And 100 Talkers got swept. It was an 0-3 weekend.
Yeah.
And as
it was 0-3 Friday.
0-3 Friday. And as our dear friend ya boy Graf said, 100 Talk went 0-3, so 100 Thieves could go 4-0. And that's what happened, because not only did we beat them in the Civilist War for LCS, we beat them in the Civilist War for Academy. So feeling pretty high on 100 Thieves right now. And actually, the Academy thing's a big deal because that Dignitas Academy team is basically an LCS team. It's close to that. So it was a nice weekend by the boys.
Yes. And I don't know if we've confirmed this to be the case, but it's possible, Cole, that we may now need to arrange for the 100 Talk team to go 0-3 in advance of big weekends from here on out. This could be another way that we can bring the buff. We'll have to explore that some more, but I'm open to the possibility, Cole. We can probably arrange for good 0-3 showing from the 100 Talk squad whenever it's needed.
And it might be needed this week. More on that later. Okay, let's actually talk about the game, though.
Yes.
Dignitas, what happened?
Yeah, a lot happened. It was a long game in the fashion and tradition of our Dignitas battles. I don't know honestly how many minutes it was. It felt like a long game, and my heart was older by the end of it.
Your doctor called you and said, "I was looking at your data from your Apple iWatch or whatever they call it these days. What happened?"
Right.
So, oh no, it was Dignitas
sir?
Under Thieves.
Did you just skydive? Feels like it. Yeah, that was a echoes of, was that CLG, our first Elder Steel game? Is that who we played in that game? Whew.
Say again. I'm sorry.
Remembering that the CLG game is where Meteos got the Elder Steel, right?
Yeah. Yes.
That
Golden
hairline,
Guardians, maybe. Anyway, earlier on when we stole,
it's a very long time ago. It felt a little bit like that game.
Miraculously, yes.
Where we were losing, and then suddenly we weren't, and our guys showed up and made a good play, and that's how we reclaimed the lead, Cole. But one of the things we talked about is this a gritty win, or is it just a very sad throw?
Yeah.
And I think there's evidence to present for both sides of that argument, Cole.
Well, there's also graphical evidence of what happened in this game, and it was something dubbed the Dignitas Trench.
The trench. Not a great feature to have in your gold graph.
Yeah. So
it fell off a cliff. It was insane.
So what happened basically was we got run off the rift for the first part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had some crazy misplays by Dignitas that led to some fortunate turns of events for us. And then we went ahead and said, I'm not sure if we really want to win this game.
Yeah, it's not fitting the narrative. Yeah. At this point.
So we made it more dramatic. Yeah. And then we're somehow able to pull it off.
Give back the Baron buff.
Yeah.
Give it back.
Right.
Return it.
But I think what we saw is leading into a little bit of a pattern for us. And that is that there's a lot of talk on this team about the aggressive mindset, right? Like in the heist, it's like, play aggressive, play aggressive, play aggressive. And I just don't feel like that's what happens to us in the mid game. And I think in this case, because we were playing a team that is not polished, especially in their mid game, we were able to be the benefactors of their mistakes, right?
Yep.
And for me, there's also the question of like, was this patience by us or indecision? Like, what's the cause here, the root cause? Because when I like watched this play, it was honestly like we're just waiting for them to make a mistake, and how can we capitalize?
Yeah, and they talked about that in the cast, right? How in past games, and this is actually something that you and I have urged them to do. So maybe this is just revealing our true colors, but I think from a fan perspective, right? It's always sad when you're just giving stuff away for free. There's basically no worse feeling, and I think this season has only amplified that. When you look at the consequence of losing things like Dragon Soul, of losing Baron, certainly losing Elder, and there's just this sense of you're kind of marching toward the grave as these things slip away from you. And so it just feels so bad. And I think the very natural instinct, if you're armchair quarterbacking, is to say, hey guys, have you thought about fighting for any of those objectives? That any of them, just a turret or a Drake or whatever. Like we've had those games where we don't fight for any of those. And I think those are the ones where we come back onto this show and just feel completely deflated and defeated. And to a certain degree, I'd say this game was an example of a very good reason not to do that, to bide your time, to set yourself up to make a play that can actually turn the game. Because if you're down 3 Drakes to 1, getting 1 Drake isn't really that much. Like, it's not a sizable gold swing. It's not a sizable power swing. you're really not probably going to change the course of the game. But if you get a Baron, that is, right? And especially if it's mid to late game, like kind of towards the 30-minute mark more, because then you actually have enough farm, you have power, you can quickly siege down turrets, you can really balance out the map. And I think that's exactly what we saw happen here, right? We did a really good job of giving away the things we could stand to give away and not completely lose the game.
That's such
And
a
then we made a play for the thing that actually made a difference. And I think that's where the game started to turn for us.
well, it's a little tough for me to swallow that though, because at the same time, it felt like there were times where we gave entirely too much, and in this game specifically, um, it was when they took Rift Herald up top.
Mhm.
They took down Ssumday, and I think had 3 up top.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this was after Ssumday almost miraculously killed Huni still in this 1v3, as he is wont to do. But yeah, so they took Rift Herald and immediately took it top while we were trying to push in on bot side.
Mhm.
No one did anything about this push though, right?
Yeah.
So top turret, the tier 1 top went down, and we were still just hammering away on the plates
Yep.
and bot side.
Yep.
Then charge goes down to tier 2, and we were still just hammering away on the plates
Right.
bot side, right?
Yep.
And we didn't even take that bot turret. So we lost T1 and T2 turrets in the top lane, which was like, are we
That's a
really
bad
not
trade.
going to do anything? And Shelly almost got
bad
off a 3rd charge too.
Right. It was
So-
only Ssumday's miracle whirly blade that stopped it.
Yeah, and so
mid charge.
so it's not like we gave up like one objective to take another. We didn't even get that objective all the way.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, at the same time, I would argue we didn't lose, right? Like we lost a lot in that exchange, and I think looking back on it, you'd say, hey, we should have done something about that. But it still was, it was a better play than sending 2 people up there to try to stop the 3 people and the Herald and having them die too, right? Like we
Would they
were
have
able
died
to,
though? You don't die in that
maybe.
situation.
Are you sure that we
Yeah.
don't die?
Yeah, well, teams, if you have 2 defending Shelly charge, like they're not going to like keep pushing and kill you.
I don't know. I mean, if they're that much more powerful, like there are versions of that play where we try to be proactive and stop them, and it doesn't work. And I don't have enough of a close read of this game and this moment in the game to say that they definitely should have gone. But my counter would just be that whatever we were doing at that time, it still allowed us to make the play we needed to make when we needed to make it.
Yeah, I just struggled deciding did we make a play or were we handed mistakes? I'm not sure I agree that like we were proactively making a lot of plays. And you can see that by the setup, how these things played out setup wise. Like they were the ones dropping like excellent vision across the map around objectives, right? We were the ones giving up control of like entire lanes at a time. And we were doing things like sending 3 to chase Huni.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like it's just I'm just not on board with how this game was played, I guess.
It was a Huni kill that set up the Baron, though.
Yeah. Yes. Well, did he actually die or did he escape there?
He died. Yeah, he died. We got him. We sent 2. We got him.
Oh
And
yeah,
when they saw that we
because
had 2
he fended off 1v3. He escaped. Then
Yeah,
we
a
sent
previous
2
time.
back to clean him up. That's right.
I think that he had dropped something like a flash or something.
But the thing was, we sent Meteos down in that group. So like Meteos and maybe Ssumday or somebody were down there. So they're like, okay, cool, no jungler. Let's start this Baron.
I think it was Meteos and Stunt. If I'm
okay, yeah, right. Sure. But the point is, the jungler went as far away from the objective as he possibly could. You know what I mean? And so it just felt
like against
weird.
a better. Maybe what you're getting at is against a better team, we would have lost this game.
Oh, certainly. Against a better team. I mean, we should have even lost it to this team, which is not good. You know.
So we did exactly enough to win the game against the opponent we were playing. Not a lot to celebrate in that, most likely. But I think, looking at that play, right? Huni was strong, and he is their best player, I'd say, just objectively. And he was actually playing really well, right? If he shows up to that Baron fight, if he TPs in, I don't know if he had TP up. Again, I'm not doing close reading. But they didn't know what would follow their attempted gank on him or just hit the answer to split push, whatever you want to call it. It's very possible that if he were involved in that fight, it would have gone their way, right? You can imagine how you play that out in exactly the same way. It's Ssumday and Ryoma jumping over the back of the pit. They're in there. They get free fire on Acadian. He's stunned. He's exploded. Their jungler is also neutralized. If you have an Aatrox doing his flips in the back of the pit, none of that happens.
Yeah,
right?
I guess that's right, because Cody's son was the one who went with Meteos down.
Oh, it's Cody's son. So yeah, you had, and because you had Ssumday jumping over the back and Ryoma flashing in, right? So I don't know. I mean, I think it's very easy to say you guys misplayed this and you should have lost this game. But I think you can also look at the key moments and say you did what you needed to do to set yourself up. And whether or not it was a likely setup or if it should have worked, it worked. And, I think there are things that you need to look at in that situation. It's okay. We successfully stopped their play, right? We made a play. They made a play in response and we stopped it. And we then capitalized on it, right? And then there's more that happened after that. But that's an important thing to do when you're losing the game.
Yeah. Look, man, I love you so much. We've known each other for 25 years plus. I just think you're two rose glasses on this one, rose tinted glasses, because to me it's like but the thing is, it's just like think, what did we do with that Baron, right? Well,
we sieged a lot.
Here's what we did. We took Drake off the map. Good, right? Keep the Drake thing going. We did get mid inhib, which was nice. Then we almost threw the entire freaking game for no reason.
With the Baron, that wasn't the Baron buff that caused us to do it. That was another bad
That was
play.
during our Baron siege. And plus we wandered around for like a minute not doing anything with the Baron buff at the beginning of it. It was
you can't look at us almost throwing a team fight and say, because you got the Baron, you almost lost the game. That's another thing.
Okay, but I'm saying we mishandled what happened. Yeah, so my argument is not the Baron cost us the game or should have cost us the game. My argument is we aren't playing well in this game and we didn't deserve that. And here's another example of how we screwed it up when we shouldn't have. We had no business throwing the game that hard. Use the trench, right? The trench, because Dignitas is up here. Then we got the gold lead, and then Dignitas got it right back. That had no business happening. Right. And there was a nice TP flank by Huni that really set this up. And then he pursued as aggressive as an Aatrox possibly can. Or he
flashed.
Who was he on? Yeah, he was on Aatrox. It was Aatrox on
Aatrox, and he beautifully flashed a Ryoma stun, which would have caused probably a full peel. He played that fight super well, which is kind of me getting back to if you can neutralize Huni, that game plays very differently. And when he was off the map is when we made huge gains. And I don't want to jump forward, but there's another Huni TP, which we can talk about in contrast to that one.
Do it, man. Yeah, that's where we're going.
So that's he gets that huge TP. And that's the thing too, right? Okay, we overextended a little bit. A player like Huni is capable of making those kinds of plays. Against a lesser player, we probably would have been able to peel and disengage. But he outplayed the whole team.
Sure.
He timed his stopwatch perfectly. I think he might have eaten up an ult. I think this is the same fight. He flashed perfectly. He did a lot.
Yeah, he did a lot.
And then
it was crazy.
Then, eventually Acadian came in and cleaned up, right? So but he doesn't get to do that if we're still 4 people strong, all grouped up, kind of close to full health. So yeah, credit to Huni. Reverse credit to Huni moments later when, I guess, as long as a TP cooldown is later, when he comes back in, there's a team fight, you get the good old NA Ram, and he TPs into the middle of 5 people, and he's basically dead upon arrival. It was shocking.
And when you say into the middle of 5 people, I don't think you could say that any more accurately. It was right into the middle of 5 people.
You basically couldn't even see his character model. It was he was drowning.
He's immediately locked down, and that was he had a good amount of help.
Yeah, he came with full health. I think.
Can I just make a point though before this happened? And I'm sorry because I told you, let's talk about his other TP. man, we look like after we lost that fight though, we looked so lost, man. I'm telling you, we looked like I don't know what to do. Let's just wait and see what happens. Like that's how we were playing, and I don't like that. Like we got wiped. Um, we did somehow contest them off a Baron. That was like the weirdest moment of the match for me. Is like, how did that work? We got him off Baron when I think it was like Ryoma and Stunt were killed in that fight, I think.
Yeah. Watching the highlights.
Cody was killed early. Yeah, it was like we had no business winning that contest. They moved on to Cloud Soul and got Cloud Soul. Mm-hmm. And then we were able to push them off Baron again. It was so weird. It was like like I don't know. I can't tell if it was wise and prescient of whoever's shot calling for us to say, "Hey, they're going to do something wrong here. Let's just see what that is."
Perhaps.
Or if it was just us being like, what do we do in this situation? And I hate feeling like there's no plan for the situation. I hate that.
Yeah. I don't know. I fully credit your suspicion that I'm being too rosy on this, because it was not a game where you leave feeling confident, right? And
sure.
Here are the things I think about. We had to get this win, and we found a way, even when being down. And even if that way is you let the other team play their game until they mess up, that's one way to win. If their Nexus falls at the end of it, you played the game in the way that you needed to get the dub. It still counts.
But did we do it on purpose? That's all I'm asking. Was it a call to wait for the mistake, or was it, wow, they just threw the game and we are so blessed?
It takes two. Here's what I'd say. Here's my actual evidential response. We have seen our team before be in that kind of a situation and give both objectives. We've given both.
Yikes. Baron, the Golden Guardians game from last year.
There are ways that we can play, and we have played much worse. And that is kind of a like using hyperbole as an example. So you have to show up to steal, right? Like or to even stop. So the fact that we were proactive in making a play in the bottom lane, proactively showed up in the pit to stop the take. Like if you're not there, you don't get to do those things. So you have to at least be there. And this is a team that, as we kind of started off the pod, I'm seeing us do enough to be proactive in certain situations where I'm getting the sense that we have at least some kind of a sense of how we want to play these games out. Doesn't always work. Sometimes it completely falls flat. Think of the Liquid game. But in this case, it got the job done.
Okay, fair point. So I think the title of this pod, if I'm not mistaken, I don't even remember what we did, but it was something like, are we decent or just lucky, right?
Decent or just lucky, yeah.
And does that make us decent? Is what you're saying, does that make us decent?
If giving two key objectives at a key moment in the game makes you bad, then I have to think that fighting for and getting one of them makes you something better than bad.
Something better than bad. Okay, that's what we'll go with. We'll go with that. All right. Jordan's official rating for this 100 Thieves squad is something better than bad.
Yeah. We can argue the fine points of it in more detail, but I at least put my foot down at that point. That's where I make my stand.
I'll say this, man. Your optimism is very needed and appreciated.
I always have the optimistic take.
Yeah. You do. And man, I think if not for the way the other game played out, I would feel a lot worse about this. Like even if we got 2 wins and game 2 was basically like the same,
yeah,
I would be like, look, guys, we are a 9th place team who happens to be super lucky right now. That's all we are. And
we did the Nico passive to copy the tied for 4th place team.
Right. And I feel like I'm not sure. I feel like we are a certified, qualified playoff team, you know? We'll revisit that though. Let's revisit.
There are looming issues, Cole, that make me, even if we continue at this rate and make playoffs, which we will talk about, there are issues that I am very concerned about.
Yeah.
And I am under no pretense or misconception that we will show up in playoffs and shake up the world. We're not as good as the best teams in this league.
For sure.
We've got a lot more to do.
Yeah. So let's talk about Immortals, and then we'll revisit this debate of how good we are. Because again, I'm not arguing that we're a 9th place team, to be clear. I'm not arguing. I'm just saying, like, we've had a lot of fortune on a couple of these wins, 2 or 3 of these wins, and I just don't know. If we play like we did against Immortals, I'd be a lot more convinced. Oh, you know what? We do need to mention one thing.
Okay.
In the Dignitas game. Wow. We need to talk about Ryoma's performance, okay?
Okay.
Here's my take.
Okay.
Strictly speaking, just talking about the lane phase.
If we're being strict.
He won it. He won it by a little bit. Just, it's like that much. I feel like he won his lane. Good for him. Here's the thing though. He's on Syndra. And you know what I really like to watch? I like to watch Syndra players who chunk out health bars like all over the place right before significant fights.
Talking about Bjergsen by chance?
That's one of them. Yeah, there's some others we could go in. That's what I want to see out of him. And we did not get that. And we know at this point, we know that his early game is typically not good. Like he's probably got, if not the worst, one of the worst early games among mid laners in LCS. Fortunately, strictly speaking about laning, he did better against Froggen, who some people like. I'm not one of them.
Yeah, I know that. That's been established.
But he didn't do that secondary role like very much at all in this game. And so while I felt like, okay, cool, that's a step in the right direction in some respect, I felt like the other thing is what it would be more reliable out of Ryoma is like finding those skill shots and those chunks. Like I wanted him to do that and expected him to do that more than he actually did. So it was a weird Ryoma game for me. What's your take on how he did?
Well, if one of the metrics that people are judging him by is laning phase, which is an appropriate thing to do, winning laning phase is a good thing. And so I just want to repeat for the record that if you're keeping score at home, and I know some of you are, please tally this in the favorable outcomes portion of your score sheet. You don't get to criticize him for losing lane and not recognize him for, and I'm not saying you're doing this specifically, but
yeah.
It's important that as you look at this, you take notice. Froggen is no slouch. He is
okay. I'm just saying that because I don't like him.
Yes,
go ahead.
I know. Objectively speaking, he has performed well. We've seen him bully a lot of players in mid lane matchups.
Sure.
He can take over games, and he has taken over games against us. So I look at a favorable outcome against him as a very favorable thing, a development, call it whatever you want. But yeah, that's my sense. I'm becoming less convicted over time that Ryoma doesn't have a good laning phase. And we'll talk about this more with IMT game. But for somebody who's bad in lane, he's been playing awful good in lane lately. And I'm starting to become concerned that maybe he's not actually bad in lane as either the news media is reporting or as the fans are convinced. So we'll talk about that. Here's what I'd say. I'd have to watch again just to see a little bit more closely. I mean, he is not Bjergsen. Very definitively not Bjergsen. Nor is he anywhere close to Bjergsen Syndra, which I would say is Bjergsen's most impressive and dominant champ. Not maybe as annoying and like soul crushing as Zillion, but
oh gosh,
the way he plays Syndra is kind of different than probably everybody else, right? It's like when you watch him play it, you're like, are we sure it's the same kit though? Because I don't know how he keeps doing this given the same skills. So what I look for is, I think my overall perception on this is he seems less comfortable on a champ like Syndra. This is going to seem like a very mild observation than Zoe.
I love mild observations.
Yeah, not even a take. It's just an observation. I don't think he is as comfortable on Syndra. I truly don't. He is competent with Syndra, but it's not by any means what I consider a power pick for him. Because of some of the things you've mentioned, but even in team fights and as an engage tool, he doesn't. You don't see him making as many plays using the stuns, using the ult. He ulted a stopwatch person, which happens all the time, right? But it is still one of those where it's like, that's just one fewer thing you can do for this entire fight now, right?
Yeah. At a key time too.
He did have a key kill and involvement in the Baron play, and I will give him credit for that.
Mm-hmm.
He flashed in. He comboed with Ssumday well. We know that they've got that magical connection, and they absolutely. If Acadian's alive, he played an amazing game. He was looking
he
very
did great,
good on the Lee Sin, like some insect, like he was doing it all. He would have gotten that Baron if he was alive, no doubt in my mind. So for him to do that is at least fulfilling his obligation there to do a lot of damage very quickly. So
yeah, and I think he finds the rhythm throughout the game, right? But it just seems like early game he seems very weak, and then mid game I'm surprised at some of the things he's not doing. And then by late game it's like, okay, cool.
What do you like early game weak? Is it just that he's not roaming? Is it that he's not like?
Well, he doesn't win lane often, right? And then he does, like, even when he is even in CS or even has like a small lead, he hasn't been really roaming. And actually, if you go back and look at the stats, which, you guys can dig this up, he's not getting very many resources and support from the team. Like, they're just not investing in him because you can invest in somebody like Ssumday. But
yeah,
he actually is able to do a lot with not a lot, but it just feels like you just want him to shove that wave and like go find somebody and kill him. Like, he plays Zoe. Like, he had his 4th Zoe game this weekend, and we still haven't really seen a lot of the roaming out of him. You know what I mean? He should be doing that on that kind of champion. Now, again, you and I, we're Ryoma defenders up to this point, and we can continue to talk about him. I think, at the start of this Immortals game, I think that's part of the discussion, is that we got counterpick for mid out of this draft. So let's, if you don't mind, let's just run right into it.
One thing I'd say real quick, just as a follow up on that, is maybe part of my assessment here is how much of a struggle this has been for our mid laners, probably minus Ryu. So all the mid lane talent.
I see what you're saying. It's like we've never really had that.
Yeah, and even Ryu, like I think his impact on the game wasn't so much his presence everywhere. What we started to learn, I think, over time was his ability to influence the game from being in smart places at very smart times, selectively. Like, he would just pop up and like, oh, we can get a kill now because Ryu's here. Yeah, it's great. But the fact that we're going even in lane is such a huge improvement for us.
That's true. That's objectively true.
Happy with that improvement, knowing that there's always room to further that improvement.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. So, looking at the totality of the split, he is getting better over time, and actually stats bear that out. I was on Oracle's Elixir earlier today, and he has,
shout out,
in many categories, not all of them, but in many, he's risen out of the bottom, and he's kind of in that mid soup. Yeah. I guess, if you want to call it that, among statistical rankings in a lot of stuff, not everything. Again, there's still some things he's dead last in, but he is seeing improvement statistically, which is good. In this case, in this Immortals game, we got him counterpick and we put him on Zoe. And I just, every time Zoe comes up, I just think about the people who I continue to see in chat or on Twitter or wherever that keep saying he's so bad on Zoe. And I can't figure out where this is coming from. Cause he had one kind of bad game, right, on Zoe.
Yeah.
But he is 3-1 on this champion now in LCS, and he's 3-0 against Zoe. You know what I mean? And it's not like he's the single reason this team is winning, right? But it's like he's not letting the enemy Zoe get out of control, and he is winning on Zoe. Like, he, you know what I mean? That's a 75% win rate. So if we can just stop saying he's a good bad Zoe, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it takes the kind of, are we just fully into the Immortals game now? Should we go for it?
Sure.
I think this game was such a tour de force in a lot of ways that we can probably just go player by player and talk about what we saw, what we thought, starting with Ryoma since we're already on the topic. I think sometimes it does take a highlight reel play and a play that shows such kind of a, honestly, like a shocking level of mastery that people stop for a second and just say like, hold up, what? He just did, what did he do? Before you really accept. It's like, that's what you need to see to be like, okay, he's good. He's good. He got Zoe. Well, he's probably got like mastery 7 now. But that's what this game was, right? And it wasn't his most dominant Zoe game. Like I can't remember who we were playing against because he's played it 4 times now. There was a game where he literally, it was he's landing skill shots on Leona all day long. You know, he probably landed like 30 bubbles, honestly, or maybe more. I don't know. It was someone on their team was asleep almost the entire game. It was insane. And that was the kind of game where he played Zoe and it just completely like shook them up, right? Because he was such a pest. This game, it was aggressive Zoe in a way that we've not seen so much. And the type of aggression that you don't typically see with Zoe's, where it's not like he was landing a sneaky bubble followed by a paddle star that deletes someone, right? Like 100-0 basically. This was like the team is, we've scattered their team. They are in full retreat and he is a monster and they are trapped in the rift with him and he's finding them. That double kill play that I think will obviously be like on our top 15 for the year and in his highlight reel probably for the rest of his career. Like that was a big play and it was mechanically sublime. Like it was one of those plays that the casters stop and rewatch and appreciate the layers of in the replay because it was crazy cool. That was high level Zoe play.
Yeah. Pat Mawini is in chat saying that that Ryoma, like we only focus on when Ryoma lands skill shots and stuff. Look, man, I like go back and check the record. Like he has done well on Zoe. Like it's just objectively he has done well on Zoe. And he hasn't done it against, say, Jensen, right? Or he hasn't done it against Bjergsen. But you have to give credit where credit is due, right? And we're not saying this dude is a top 4 mid laner in the league. We're saying he's getting better and he's competent on this champion. Yeah. So don't misunderstand the take and don't hesitate to give credit where it's due either. You know what I mean? So that's the piece on Zoe.
Right.
So
I would love to hear the take of how you would argue that after watching specifically that play that he's not good with the champ. Like he clearly can play Zoe. Like you don't see a lot of people making that play.
Well, yeah, but that is one play and you got to look at the totality of what happens and that's the argument. But again, he's definitely competent on that champion. And what the heck is going on? Jasker just gifted 20 subs in the chat. Jasker, you are a monster. Holy cow.
Thank you, Jasker. Holy cow.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's incredible. We don't usually call out that kind of stuff on during this show just because, you know, we're focused on the audio version of the pod, but thank you very much. That's incredible.
Sometimes people drop 20 subs and you lose your train of thought.
That's right. So, and I don't want to continue talking about Ryoma on Zoe right now. I'm not going to argue with one user in Twitch chat, but so let's talk. Are you ready to talk about Ssumday?
I'm always ready to talk about Ssumday, Cole.
I had to tweet that video of him saying, I just killed everyone right after this game. Because even though it was mostly SOAS that he was killing, it was incredibly dominant. So he just easily won us that early game. And the rest kind of fell into our laps, I felt like, you know, obviously if you're talking about who is most responsible for this win, it's not even close.
It's not close. And it's another Aatrox game that the other team wishes they could take back. And I think my coaching resume is still out there somewhere floating around, which is it's one line. It says, consider banning Aatrox against Ssumday. Still a good consideration to make. It's just too safe a champ for him. He can blind pick it. It's a first pick. You know, it's a powerful champ. And I mean, look, decent or lucky. I think the we know he's not decent. It was one auto away from that first kill.
Oh,
And
geez. Yeah.
potentially it was a canceled auto because some weird thing. But what followed from there? I mean, it could have been different. I think probably still what would have happened is he goes back in the lane 0-1 and then continues to bully, right? Like
Yeah.
that one kill doesn't change the entire game to that degree, I would say. But man, what force to be reckoned with. I'm kind of running out of different ways to say it, Cole, but like he's just such a huge problem. And I think more this season than before, he's showing that he can win us games. We've talked a lot in the past about how gone are the days of the 1v9. The Lucian game was basically that. Our team kept their team busy, and he basically won the game through his lane.
It
was
really was that. It was like there were
crazy.
two games playing simultaneously
Yeah.
that whose outcomes are related, but the games themselves are different.
Right. Like the win condition, it's kind of like you keep the VIP alive, right?
Yeah.
And they managed to do that. And then the VIP's win condition is to destroy the Nexus, and he did that. So good job, 100 Thieves. I don't even know what else to say, man. It's just that I think the best you can say about Ssumday right now, he's legitimately in the conversation for second team and only not in the conversation for first team, I think, because of how good Cloud9 is. And it feels kind of absurd to say that anyone else should be there. And he's had games where he wasn't as dominant. So I'm not saying that he's completely.
Yeah, I think he had like an 0-5-1 Aatrox game.
Right.
Split,
It happens.
It happens.
But he continues to impress. And I think that he could truly be that kind of player that, he could probably go toe to toe with just about anybody. Certainly in the LCS, probably on a much bigger stage. And if we can find a way to keep him on our roster, I would be thrilled after his contract expires.
Yes. Hopefully we can somehow do that. That will be a challenge.
That will be. We have to start playing a lot better. We have to build a team around him that I think he deserves.
Yeah. And because he's already in peak form, basically. Like you can't really ask more from him. I mean, maybe like I said, he has had games where he was a little cooler than usual, but I mean, he's showing up for more than 50% of these games to solo carry, and it's just whether the rest of the team can bear out the win or not. He's looking like he's in clear, like right before summer finals form. And that's amazing to be there this early already.
Can I make one other point on Ssumday, which we don't usually take this into consideration, but and we have not talked about this. We'll get into it in general probably. I think that the team is doing a good job of drafting for Ssumday, and I'm feeling more confident in the way we are setting him up in these games. The number of times he's been blind picked and how well he's done, I think, is like that has a material impact on our games, right? When we can do that with the confidence that we have in him, and that comes from the coaches kind of setting him up to be in that position and to play that role. And the number of times we're getting him counter picks too is encouraging. Like I don't think that's something we've seen him do as much, and that's how you get that Lucian game, right? You get the last pick of the draft, you set him up, and you set him loose, and we saw how that game went. So it's hard to talk about draft. I think sometimes, especially if your comment isn't just our draft is bad and dumb, but I think it's not just like we'll let Ssumday pick kind of wherever he gets a pick and we'll go with it. Like it seems a little bit more intentional, which I'm encouraged by.
Yeah. Though, I mean, I just to put this out here, I mean, I'm going to look at it right now, but I'm pretty sure Ssumday actually has a negative win rate on Aatrox, which seems to be one of his like priority picks. Obviously in 99% of it is not Ssumday's play. That's not getting the win, but I say that to say like, yeah, it's kind of difficult to sort out how the team plays around him, and maybe they have just unlocked that recently. Quick going over it. That's let's see, 1 and 2, 1 and 4. Yeah, he's 2 and 5 on this champ. Mm-hmm. So he's played it a lot and he's lost a lot. But more importantly to what you're saying, his last 5 picks have been Aatrox twice, Renekton, Set, and Lucian, and we're 4 out of 5 of those games we've won. And he's been a material part of most of them. I think his Renekton game against Dig this past weekend was actually not very good. But I definitely he is doing everything we could want from him.
Yeah, I think that might be almost more champ blame on that. Just the way they've kind of balanced Renekton more recently. Like he isn't.
Well, we still picked it though.
We still picked it for sure, but the champ is no longer set up. Where the changes to Spear Shojin, he's no longer set up to completely like fight forever.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have the survivability of Set any longer, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
well, one of the other storylines while we're just talking about everybody's performance, I mean, is like this game we won every lane. Like we won bot lane, we won mid lane, we won top lane. And this is what it can look like when that happens. Now, Mortals has not the best players. Like Apollo is he subbed in, right, for Immortals. Like he hasn't been there the whole time. It was it Alltech before that?
Yeah, reunited with Hakuho.
Yeah, and that is a comfort partner, we'll say, for him, Apollo and Hakuho. But and Aika is obviously not that great. And so
when did he change his name from Aika? Just out of curiosity.
I think everyone's been saying it wrong all split, and then so
like
they submitted it. Yeah, it's like everyone wanted to say Ryoma, and now it's Ryoma. Anyway, so it's not like we won all 3 lanes against like great laners, right? But this is what it can look like if we're able to get everybody to that level. I think Cody-san, with a different support, which we'll talk about, could win a lot of lanes, and Ssumday we know can win a lot of lanes. You know what I mean? So there are things here that bode well for us.
Yeah, that was, I was going to ask, the bot lane piece was, I think, the question mark for me. And I don't, we may have technically won it, right? Like come out ahead in gold or whatever in bot lane. But I do remember that at times that was where we were feeling pressure, right? If anywhere, because top lane was a joke. We had first turret down in like 4 minutes. I'm kidding, but it was pretty quick. And then, Ryoma and Zoe. So I don't know where you're getting the sense that we won it from, if it's actually the numbers or just the way it played out. But I know that for a while there, that seemed like their only shot back into the game for Immortals.
Well, I mean, like he had kills, right? But what did they get out of that lane? Like, did they even get first turret down in that lane?
I can't remember the order of turrets and stuff. I think that at one point they had turrets down, but either way, that I do remember for sure that was the one part of the map where we weren't dominating.
I mean, he had kills, but yeah, I'll check on this.
Yeah,
I'll check on this, but he had kills. That's okay.
One of the, I know actually we might even think about going into listener questions, because I know we had some good takes about this game specifically, but Meteos, like, 2 wins on the weekend. We spent a lot of our time talking about a couple of players. We spent a lot of time talking about Ryoma, a lot of time talking about Ssumday. We haven't talked about Meteos. We've not talked about Cody-san or Stunt. So I feel like we should probably round it out a little bit. And it's not because they're not important players for us, but that's kind of where the storylines seem to sit right now. I think for did you have one you want, or do you want me to just kind of jump into one?
Sure.
I think for Stunt specifically, okay. Stat lines don't tell the whole story. Disclaimer.
So I figured out, by the way, my note on when we took bot turret was incorrect. On my timestamp on that, so that's why I was like, "Oh, we won these lanes." My bad, guys. No, we did not win that lane. But he got kills and they got turret down. We had to use Shelly actually to take that turret down. So my bad, timestamps are wrong in my notes.
Yep. But and it kind of goes into what I think we're probably the next topic, which is Stunt.
Yeah, Stunt, man.
He plays a lot of Nautilus, Cole. Clearly, that's a champ that the team is feeling more confident in him on. I think it's interesting that he continues to pick Nautilus pretty much every game. Like, I don't know exactly. I know it's not literally every game. It's not drawing bans, which I think is fascinating, right? In your prep for playing against 100 Thieves, you are unconcerned about basically at this point having somebody play their comfort champ. And I think that says a lot, right? And in part, I think it's because you're seeing him go 1-5-7. And then in the game that we kind of rolled, he went 0-3-4, right? Like
Yeah.
he had multiple players who were at Deathless, 403 on Ryoma, 401 on Ssumday. Cody Sun only had 2 kills. So I guess if you're palling around with him, there's not as much kill there to pick up assists on. But like, it's just, I think the stats do tell the story that he's not influencing these games in the way that some of the best supports do, where they're setting us up, they're routinely and kind of dependably getting these fights started. I just don't think that piece is there. And that's actually a pretty big problem, because it means that other people are required to do that much more, right? Like if you think about some of these kills that came through that we remember and we talk about, they were through like solo kills or kind of like mechanical heroics, right? On the end of fights. There were only 10 kills in this game.
Right.
So it wasn't a super bloody game. And I wonder how much different that would look if Stunt were kind of routinely starting these fights off in a way that allowed the team to just kind of go wild, right? Which we've seen from really good support players, and even those support players on Nautilus. Like he has an in to the fight that is one-way ticket, and that he can then absorb so much damage while the rest of the team cleans up. And I just didn't see that really happening in this game. I don't know what your thoughts were.
Yeah, well, first of all, so checking back, he's picked Nautilus 5 out of the last 6 games.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot. And
we were winning more of those games we're losing, so that's good.
We are winning. That's the thing. We are winning those games. But yeah, it does seem like he's more of a hindrance than a help. And matter of fact, going through my notes again, so maybe these are a little out of order, but in this game specifically, he tried to engage onto Apollo in between tier 1 and tier 2 on the bot side, and just got like absolutely deleted. And I didn't seem like there was really a reason for the engage. Like, I'm not sure what the thought was behind it. And I think he had roamed away from bot lane when Cody was pushing up, and that's when Cody got killed. And what was a lane lead, which was in my notes, turned into a lane deficit off the heel of that kill. It's just weird. And then we've seen him. Now, I will say this. Some of the kills that look really bad for him, I felt like recently have been out of necessity, out of like him trying to bail somebody out. Like Meteos is clearing vision for too long in the river, and then he feels like he has to go in and be the one who dies. But he'll like faceplant hook into a wall. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Also, he'll do that.
I don't know.
I mean, look, it's kind of like just in sports in general, right? If you've got a guy who's having kind of a slump, giving him the play instructions, which is like, I don't know, try swinging for a home run. It's like you got it. We're down 3. Try like jacking up a 3 from mid court, right? Like you either make it and you look good, or you hit a wall with your face. Right?
Well,
like,
but
there's
LeBron and Steph Curry will do that.
Yeah, they will.
Lillard will do that.
We know that Stunt is not LeBron James of the Rift. Like I think Nautilus is a champ that you either get it or you like. We've had kind of the not top 10 plays here. The list has been growing, where it's just like, hey man, you went for an engage, and unlike Thresh, where if you miss, it just people are kind of like, oh come on Thresh. This one, if you miss, you just haul yourself to your death sometimes, which is tough. Like that's a tough look for a support player. I feel for the guy in that I've played that position, and when you're like, there's no forgiveness in that setup. You hit it or you don't, and if you don't, good chance you're dead.
Yeah, and he I have in my notes like an easy pick on him in bot side jungle for no reason.
Yeah.
And we didn't get punished for some of this, which is always crazy. He almost went down twice, like at other times during this, where he like got out kind of luckily. And I just, at this point, so we have to say, like, we're at week 7 of the split. Okay, 2 weeks left. he's got to go, right? We can't continue to improve to the point where we'll be a top 4 contender with him on this team. It seems like to me.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this in the terms that we've been using, which is developmental, right?
Sure.
I think that in some ways, calling Stunt a developmental talent is a generous assessment.
Yeah, that's the point I've been making.
Yeah,
he's been around for a long time.
He's been around, and I think that at this point, the team knows enough to say either to say whatever they want to say. I think the team is crazy if they are not actively considering alternatives at the support position.
Yeah.
I think you have to be thinking about that because, listen, you said it just a few minutes ago. Ryoma's numbers are improving, right? In one of the games, the best games we've played this split, Stunt's numbers were 0, 3, and 4. That is not. I don't think that's good enough. Like I just don't. There are enough support players out there, I think, who can reliably turn in a better performance that you've got to at least be looking. I think you got to at least be looking.
That's tough though, because like I feel like the support pool is kind of thin here.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying that there's a ready-made alternative.
Yeah.
But you just have to think, even like take the same approach you have with Ryoma. Just be looking for whoever the next support player might be. I would feel better about now, granted, you have to look in the domestic pool because you've already got both your import slots looking for. But take a shot on somebody like that, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
there isn't an easy answer.
There isn't an easy answer here. So, and it's kind of it's frustrating to point out problems without suggesting a solution. Yeah. But I think, you know, to your point, just to drive this home, like, yeah, Stunt is not, he's been around for a while and he's played in a lot of teams and it hasn't worked out in a variety of situations. And at some point you have to throw in the towel on that. And I think like we have Breezy. I think it's too early to bring Breezy in. So you're maybe looking to teams that are underperforming this split that may need to make a change. You know, maybe you look at Smoothie from CLG or something, but it's like, I don't know if I feel great about that either, but it would probably be an upgrade over where we are right now.
I think it definitely would.
I think like, you know, Ssumday playing at his level is great. Ryoma will have to see. Cody Sun, we know, can be competent with a good support, right? Like he can be, I shouldn't say competent. I should say good. He can play well with a competent support. So maybe that will be enough to take us into like, okay, we are legitimately going to be like a playoff team, no contest. Whereas even if we get into playoffs this split, it's feeling to me like, oh, that was close. I'm not sure about that.
I agree. And I think for me right now, the biggest contributor to that feeling is Stunt in the support position.
Yeah.
And I think I feel okay with us kind of leaving it for now on my current assessment is you make no changes at this point, obviously. But I think you are very actively thinking about it if you are playing this smart.
Yeah. Well, man, I hope we can find out a solution there. But I just think like at this point, I feel like I've seen enough.
Yeah.
Which is sad, but it is true.
Yep.
It's true.
And you know, we say it all the time. Great team, great players, love these guys. But this is a competitive business, right? That's the name of this game. It's a competition. And I think if you're a top player, you want to be fighting for your position. And if you're on a team, you want everybody on the team to be fighting for their position too. So it's kind of a tough reality of it. I think you just got to make those calls.
It's too bad we don't have the import slot. We could put Ryu in at support. Finbar Smith 99 says, how much better would we be if we had one of the best supports in the league? Would it make us a top team or still middle of the pack? Now, if you say one of the best of the league, I think that could not make us a top team, but I think like fourth place probably is reasonable if we have like one of the best supports.
Totally.
And then the rest would depend on how Ryoma develops. If he continues to improve, and maybe if he takes like a significant leap forward, then yeah, maybe we could be a top team with that support. Supports can really make a massive difference. But we definitely still have work to do in mid lane.
Think about this too. One of the things we all expect and know of Ryoma is that he's an aggressive player. You cannot play as aggressively as you want to if there are positions within your team that are not up to the level of strength that you expect. Right? We see it from Ssumday, where he has to stop playing Ssumday and start playing desperately try to hold this team together. Right? So I would be personally fascinated to see Ryoma playing his game in a team that was that much sharper, because I think it would be I think there'd be a real difference there. Um, so I think we could see even more improvements in other places with that improvement in as support.
Yep. Oh, and just to tie a bow on the support conversation, because I had a take from Montgomery 4 in chat, who said Stunt still isn't improving and has now become a weight that we have to drag along in games. We are winning when we were winning. Stunt was mispositioning like normal and kept dying for it. He was really giving them a chance to come back, and they would have if Ssumday wasn't so far ahead. So yeah, that plays right into what we're saying. I think most of us have come to that conclusion now with this. So whereas earlier on in the split, when you and I were pointing to Stunt as like, hey, this is our primary concern, and it was a little unsure. Now I think like that's pretty unimpeachable position. So speaking of the playoff run in totality, Bussa 7718 said, was wondering, with 4 games left and our first 2-0 weekend, do you feel we have a chance to keep it up to maybe make it to 4th in order to stave off single elimination play? Or are we destined to stay where we are? So I think because like 5th and 6th seed, don't they, or what happens in playoffs? Like if you're in the top 4, don't you get it, like you get something a bye? Maybe not.
I would be pretending if I said I knew.
Yeah, I need to pull up that format here in a second. But I think let's take this, piece by piece.
The 4th place piece. Yeah.
Do we have what it takes to get to 4th? Let's start there.
So I'm going to do a little bit of a agenda cheat here and just talk about the games we have left. So C9 Fly, TSM CLG. One of those games is a game we absolutely should win. The other 3 are going to be really tough games. Not to completely jump to that topic, but I think I don't think that given our schedule, it's a realistic push to make. I just don't. I haven't looked at all the remaining schedules for the teams above us, but those teams, I don't expect them to slip and drop a lot of games either, just because I think that at this point, we're starting to get a pretty good sense. FlyQuest might be the team in that group, but TSM we've seen, they took down Cloud9, right? They're becoming the team that everyone has always talked about them being, and it kind of drove me crazy a little bit. But they're strong. C9's obviously strong. I think that's going to be like our shot there is a FlyQuest CLG win, but still 2 wins there, 2 losses to CLG or to C9 TSM, and we're a 500 team. So personally, I don't see it happening.
Yeah. I'm trying to find a way if I can show this on screen, but Nickel Polka sent me the playoff format. So the change, right, are the first 4 seeds are basically in like a winner's bracket, where you have double elimination. Yep. So the 5th seed will play the loser of the series between the 1st and the 4th seed, and the 6th seed will play the loser of the 3rd seed versus 2nd seed match, right? Okay. And then have to advance from there. So they get
all best of 3s.
Yeah, no, I can't tell actually. It doesn't say on this thing. Yeah. But so that basically means if we do make it into 4th, that we have a double elimination run through this bracket. Nickel Boca says they're all best of 5s. So okay. Yeah, I don't think it looks likely that we're going to get there. As you mentioned, we have FlyQuest ahead of us, which I still think FlyQuest looks stronger than we are. Mm-hmm. TSM is playing like way better all of a sudden. And I think we can go ahead and call C9 a chalked loss. So that would put us at 8 and 10 if results play out that way. And at that point, it's like we're not guaranteed to even get in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So 8 and 10 if we 2 and 2.
Yeah, we're 7-7 right now. No, I'm saying if we go 1-3, because I think we're definitely going to lose to Cloud9.
Right.
I think we're going to lose TSM as well, and then FlyQuest to me looks stronger than we are, even though they're only like a half game or a game. Where I gotta refresh this. Actually, I had it open before the last game. Yeah, they're 8-6. Okay, so yeah, they're still a game ahead of us. Man, that's tough. And we have like one of the hardest schedules left. So
luckily, the teams behind us, Golden Guardians and Liquid, have tough schedules too, right? They play each other. Golden Guardians plays TSM, CLG, and FlyQuest. So if Liquid is a team anymore, which is TBD, then that could be tough. But either way, they're gonna win. They'll take a win off one or the other, and then Liquid has EG, Golden Guardians, Fly, and C9. So Liquid's path is also quite tough.
Well, Liquid is just having a tough time.
They are.
I'm not even like looking at them. I'm looking at some of these other teams that we could lose to.
Those are basically the two teams also in the hunt, right? I mean, they're the next two closest. So it's unlikely that they're going to have a super strong finish either.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting. The Foldy sheets will be out in full force.
Nickel Polka says those teams could have clinched by then. They may experiment in draft and we can sneak a win. Well, that certainly wasn't what happened in the C9 game tonight. They experimented with draft, and their experiment was a successful experiment.
Yeah, it was a stomp.
Yeah.
So that's a team that even if they're goofing off, there's a chance they're just going to roll you in 25 minutes.
Yeah. Let's see. What else did we have? Oh, I was going to ask you this. So, well, first of all, point blank, do you think we're going to make playoffs?
Yeah.
You do? Is this optimist Jordan or is this realistic Jordan?
You can't really separate the two fully, but I'd say, given the, like, I need to do, I'm not going to do, let's be honest. I'm not going to do like the full scenario.
The Foldy sheet. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that given that the teams on our heels also have a tough go of it and they're looking shaky, I think that plays to our favor. And I feel confident we can beat CLG, right? That's at least one win. 8-10 teams make it.
Yeah. Hey, and look, at this point,
sometimes
if we go 8-10, let's just look at what happened last split when we had the team we had and we brought in Bang, right?
Mm-hmm.
We went 4-14 in spring 2019. So we've already done significantly better. If we get one win only, we still doubled our win total from the previous year. Summer we went 8-10, so we could match that as well.
Yep.
So that's a weird like way to look at how this split plays out. And I know like a lot of people thought I was being a little too strict on my like I think we need to make playoffs to make this split successfully. To make it successful. The way that the records have played out, there's more allowance than there typically is, with records. So looking at it that way, that's a decent argument. Like to make the changes that we made and still, matching previous year is good. But man, it felt bad last year. So
it kind of feels like the last thing you want to do is lose ground. Right?
Yeah.
If you can stay the same, maybe you're willing to take that. And maybe what you do is you say, okay, fingers crossed, you hope, and try absolutely as hard as you can that you make playoffs, because I think that's super important. But then you do some of the things that we've been talking about, right? How much better are we if we have a strong support, like one of the league's stronger supports? Like that's a fun thing to think about versus like, how can we completely rebuild this team, which is the task going into this split. So the path to incremental improvement that actually gives us better outcomes for the following, like for summer, feels more optimistic overall, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So again, we already kind of talked about this, but this upcoming weekend we play C9 on Saturday. And then our FlyQuest game is actually a Monday game. So are we both predicting loss for C9? Because I am.
Yes.
Are you? And you're predicting a win for FlyQuest?
Yeah. I wasn't prepared to answer this. I don't want to just be an optimist all the time.
I feel like it's a loss, man. I feel like it's going to be a loss.
I don't want to say it. It feels so much less likely. I mean, if we win that game, it feels pretty likely that we make playoffs. Like it could even be a lock, I think, at that point. No, it wouldn't be because it's one more win to pick up. But I'm going to say it's a win. I have to.
You can't help yourself.
I can't help myself.
You can't help
I'm
yourself,
weak.
man.
I'm sorry.
Well, we'll have to have eyeballs on that mid lane matchup because that's going to be a doozy. So as we wrap this up, we will say that you guys, again, are familiar with League Leaders, who's like the us of Dignitas. Well, there is an us of C9 as well, called Bodied. And we will be hopefully getting together with them to record a segment later on. I think that will probably come out through their channel. We haven't figured that one out yet. But hopefully we're also going to work another round of community games in there if we can do it. So if you guys are interested in fighting for under the 100 Talk banner against the Bodied fans, please hang out in our Discord, and I'll put the link in Twitch. Join our Discord if you're not already in there. And when it's time for us to put that together, we will let you know, and we will assemble a squad to take them down.
Yes. Or to go 0-3, which, as we saw last week,
to allow us to just get easy dubs.
Yeah.
Easy dubs against C9. No such thing this split, but so yeah, we'll toss that out there to keep you guys excited, and we'll look forward to speaking to you all again after we clinch playoffs.
Wow. What a thing to be able to say, Cole.
I can't even say it with conviction. But hey, in any respect, like the last 2 weeks of this split are going to be super interesting to watch, like all of the games, right? Because of the way that this split is played out. So a lot of things can happen. We know C9's good, and then there's a lot that can happen besides that. So be interested to watch it play out with a lot of games of you.
Count for a lot. So we'll be watching very closely.
So in the meantime, thanks again for tuning in tonight. Thanks for all the gifted subs. Very cool.
Wow. Yeah.
Thank you for always being here to talk through these suffery moments of, are we good? Are we not good? Are we bad? Are we lucky? Every week we leave with more questions than answers, but
what was my my assessment? Something better than bad? Or
something better than bad. Let's go with that. So reporting on the something better than bad 100 Thieves. I was Cole. That was Jordan. That was 100 Talk for this week. As always, we love you and we miss you already.
Take care.